Hello, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. You forged my name? Elijah's voice shook the windows. Naomi stood rigid by the kitchen island, eyes shiny, hands clenched around a letter stamped in red. Default. It wasn't like that, she said, though the notary stamp and the phantom version of Elijah's signature said otherwise. It was a bridge loan for us. For him, Elijah cut in, pointing the message thread on her phone. Late-night hearts, wire instructions, a photo of her ex, Andre, grinning under a neon sign. You put our house up as collateral to save his business. Naomi flinched. The kettle clicked off. Nothing cooled. Their marriage had begun gently, like a Motown ballad. They met at a summer block party in Detroit. Ribs smoking on the pit, kids chalking constellations on the sidewalk. Elijah, a civil engineer, danced badly but with conviction. Naomi, a marketing coordinator, laughed so hard she forgot to guard her smile. They dated with thrift and joy. Art fairs, lake drives, laundromat poems scribbled on receipts. When they married, they bought a brick bungalow on the west side, planted marigolds, and stitched their names into a life that felt weatherproof. He taught her budgets. She taught him playlists. The first years were work and wonder. Elijah studied for his PE license, nights under a brass lamp. Naomi built campaigns for small brands, voice bright and persuasive. They celebrated promotions with lemon pound cake and cheap champagne. On Sundays, they meal prepped like a choreography. He chopped, she seasoned, their elbows smiling at one another. Even arguments had soft landings. When the roof leaked, they learned shingles together. When the car died, they split the Uber and the inconvenience. "This is us," Naomi said once, tired and happy, the marigolds nodding outside the window like old aunties. Andre slipped back into Naomi's life, like a song with a catchy hook and bad verses. A college ex with dangerous charm. He DM'd her congrats on a minor award, then a memory, then a "we were good, weren't we?" He opened a boutique gym that looked like a commercial and bled like a wound. He's trying to rebuild. Naomi told Elijah, who nodded carefully. "We all try." She started consulting after hours. Branding decks, soft loans, long calls that ended past midnight. Elijah felt a new draft in the house, a cold air that didn't console him. The first lie was a whisper about a team dinner. The second was a hidden transfer-labeled vendor retainer. The third was a story about an investor who needed a quick bridge. Naomi cried while telling it, not because she was guilty, but because emotion is a key that opens locked doors. Elijah believed and hated himself for believing. He covered 2 mortgage payments while Naomi floated a friend. He found a flyer for the gym on their dining table, his own logo suggestions in the margins, her handwriting practicing Andre's last name in the corner without noticing. Andre's gym launched glossy and loud. LED mirrors, branded water, membership tiers named after constellations. Naomi rented a sequin blazer for opening night. Elijah stayed home and ran numbers. Her credit cards near max, their emergency fund gliding downward like a tired kite. "We need to pull back," he said the next morning, offering spreadsheets like flowers. Naomi's face hardened. "You never support my ideas." He reminded her the idea wasn't hers. She reminded him of every small slight he'd never meant. Somewhere in there, a terrible decision gathered itself like storm clouds. Under a false identity. Naomi Brooks, middle name swapped, birth date nudge. She walked into a lone office 2 suburbs over in a tailored sheath and unwavering tone. She supplied forged pay stubs, a doctored deed, and listed their bungalow as collateral with spousal knowledge. The clerk, under pressure to close deals, nodded. A notary who wanted to get home before rush hour stamped what should have been stopped. The funds hit Andre's account in less than a week. Naomi texted him a champagne emoji. Elijah got an automated confirmation. Lean recorded. His stomach dropped through the kitchen floor. When Elijah confronted her, Naomi talked fast and soft. "It's a short balloon. 3 months. We flip early memberships. He pays us back with interest. We double our savings." Elijah heard the plural as a theft. "Us," he asked. Where is the us that leaves me in the dark? Naomi's mouth trembled. I'm still emotionally connected to him, she said, like confessing love was noble. It doesn't erase what we have. It erases signatures, Elijah answered, holding up the forged one. He slept on the couch that night, the marigolds pressed against the glass like witnesses. Suffering arrived in compound interest. The gym sputtered after the first month. The LED mirrors didn't attract rent money. Andre delayed payments with emoticons. The lender accelerated the note. Elijah held foreclosure notices in shaking hands. His sterling credit scarred by a debt he never consented to. He took extra site shifts, spent evenings recalculating rescue plans, skipped lunches to pay attorneys who said the same sentence. We will fight, but paper is loud. Naomi turned brittle, insisting victory was near if he would stop cursing it with doubt. He stared at her like a language he no longer spoke. To prove her allegiance to Andre, Naomi did smaller, sharper things that cut like paper. She moved Elijah's tools to the garage and changed the keypad without telling him, blaming security. She posted a photo from the gym, hand on Andre's arm, caption, "Where greatness grows," ignoring her husband's call that vibrated into the silence between shots. She redirected a freelance check meant for Elijah's side project to cover Andre's overdue rent for team. She told her sister that Elijah didn't understand vision. He ate cereal over the sink and learned how shame tastes when it's domestic. The second loan appeared like a reflection, this time a line of credit against their car, approved by spouse, the same counterfeit signature dressed in a different outfit. Elijah's jaw ached from clenching. The lights flickered after a missed utility payment Naomi insisted she had scheduled and clearly had not. Andre texted, "You are my day one at 2:11 a.m. on a Tuesday." Elijah stared at the ceiling and counted betrayals like ceiling fan rotations. The cat slept at his feet, the one loyal thing in a house rebranded as a training ground for someone else's comeback. He tried to save them anyway. Elijah met with the lender's risk officer, wore his best suit, placed photos of permits he'd pulled for city projects on the table like credentials. He explained the forgery, produced texts, begged for a restructure. The officer softened, but the policy did not. "The lien is on the property," she said gently, as if tones softened law. He called a forensic document examiner, who underlined the forgery's sloppiness in polite, devastating terms. He scheduled a couple's therapist whose office smelled like chamomile and failed efforts. Naomi skipped. "I have a launch event," she said. The power was cut one afternoon while Elijah was showering for a site meeting. Cold water slapped his shoulders like a sentence. He dressed damp, found a shut-off notice and a note for Naomi. "I'll fix it. Focus on your deliverables." He paid it with a credit card he swore he wouldn't touch. At the meeting, his hand shook around a laser pointer. A subcontractor asked if he was all right. Allergic to pollen, he lied as autumn leaves fell outside. He returned home to a candlelit kitchen, and Andre's laughter piped through Naomi's phone. His chest felt like drywall punched. The day the lender posted a notice on their door, the block grew quiet in that way neighbors do when witnessing pain they can't divide. Elijah peeled the paper off carefully, as if gentle hands could make the words untrue. Naomi arrived with balloons from a gym giveaway, strings tangling in the doorway. "We can contest," she said. "We will," he answered, because he still wore his vows like a jacket that protected his better self. He filed police reports, tracked consultations, and learned how many ways a system can say maybe later to a man who needs now. Naomi doubled down, as people do when their reflection frightens them. To prove she was ride or die for Andre, she filmed a sappy reel outside the courthouse about believing in your person through storms. Eyes damp, jaw set. Elijah watched the views climb and something in him crack. He remembered the summer block party and wanted to shake time like a stubborn vending machine. Instead, he called his mother and lied about being fine. She heard the truth anyway. "Come eat," she said. He did. Her stew steadied his hands for exactly 24 hours. A letter from the IRS requested clarification on a 1099 that Naomi had optimized for Andre's ad spend, using Elijah's EIN without asking. He pressed his fingers to his eyes until fireworks bloomed behind his eyelids. The therapist sent a kind email about unattended grief. The attorney sent an invoice. The marigolds browned at the edges. Elijah skipped a heartbeat and a meal, and then two. He fell asleep with the default letter on his chest like a stone. In the morning, Naomi whispered, "I made a mistake." He almost believed the tense implied past instead of ongoing. He asked for a full confession. Naomi provided a curated version. He asked for passwords. She offered a select few. He asked for the second phone he suspected. She laughed. "You're paranoid," she said, though paranoia often germinates in soil water by evidence. He began cataloging dates, amounts, meetings, screenshots. He stopped asking for apologies and started asking for receipts. He moved his tools to his truck and his laptop to a lockbox. He slept with his wallet under the pillow, not because he feared theft, but because he feared erasure. The gym faltered again. Andre floated the idea of a merger with a larger chain that did not want him. He floated the idea of Naomi co-signing another lease. Elijah intervened and was labeled controlling by the exact mouse that controlled him without consent. He filed for an injunction against further debt secured to their home. It bought time, not peace. Naomi accused him of sabotaging dreams. He said dreams without boundaries are storms. She called him small. He stretched his spine in the mirror to prove to himself he still took up space. One night, Naomi came home late, glitter dusting her collarbone like snow no one asked for. "I love him," she said, eyes daring consequence. "It's not about you." Elijah felt a line snap inside him where patience attached to purpose. He placed the notarized reports, bank printouts, and affidavit on the table. "It is about me when my home is collateral for your confession," he said. She raked her hair back, ring catching under a strand. "You wouldn't understand." "Explain," he said. She lifted her chin and refused, the last small door slamming shut behind her words. The court granted a temporary protective order over the property and scheduled a hearing. The lender paused the foreclosure, like a held breath. Elijah moved into a furnished sublet near the river, a room with a narrow bed and the blessing of silence. He woke to the sound of his own pulse instead of notifications. He ate eggs standing up and memorized a route to the courthouse. He met a new attorney who spoke like a metronome. He learned how to say, "Yes, Your Honor," without swallowing his dignity. He learned how to look at Naomi without drowning. Naomi tried a final grand gesture for Andre. She offered to sell her wedding ring to cover payroll. The pawn shop clerk counted out cash that looked like a dare. Andre hugged her and whispered future fictions. Elijah watched from a parking lot across the street. Not because he was cruel, but because he needed to understand the scale of what had been stripped from him. He breathed in and out until breathing felt earned again. Then he went home and washed the countertops like absolution. He packed his childhood Bible and the dish towel his mother embroidered the year they married. The hearing day arrived gray and stern. Naomi's false identity paperwork met the forensic report and bowed its head. The judge frowned at the notary's negligence and side-eyed the loan officer's haste. The lien wasn't voided. Law is slower than regret, but the court carved a path. Repayment plan under Naomi's name alone, property shielded. Elijah indemnified, standing order against further encumbrances. It was not victory. It was a ceasefire with conditions. Naomi wept in the hallway. Mascara making tributaries. Elijah handed her a tissue like a colleague. He did not touch her shoulder. Some bridges cannot bear weight again. Recovery was arithmetic and ash. Elijah ran numbers until the plan fit like an uneasy suit. He sold his motorcycle, took a contract in Dallas for 6 months, and sent payments with the precision of someone who had lost faith in luck. He mailed Naomi invoices for her share. She paid late and then on time. Andre ghosted her with the efficiency of men who know the cost of their charm and choose not to pay it. Naomi's sequin blazer hung in a dry-cleaning bag like a joke that forgot its punchline. The marigolds died and did not return. In Dallas, Elijah met Selah at a project kickoff, an urban planner with a brain like a level and a smile that didn't ask for witnesses. She asked him gently about Detroit. He answered honestly without turning grief into a monologue. They ate tacos on the curb and talked about flood maps and nephews. She did not cheerlead his suffering or monetize his caution. When he told her about the lien, she didn't flinch. "Paper cuts deep," she said, "but paper can shield too." He did not fall in love that night. He slept without grinding his teeth. Naomi called sometimes, voice small, asking about us. Elijah listened and then set boundaries like sandbags. "There is no us to discuss beyond logistics," he said, not cruelly but clearly. He filed for divorce in Wayne County. Served papers on a Tuesday afternoon when calendars are too tired to dramatize. Naomi signed. She sent 3 pages of apology that allocated most of the blame to her heart. Elijah read them and recognized the truth and the convenient omissions. He replied with a single sentence about accountability. He closed the email, and his eyes sat very still. Months later, the final decree arrived. The house was his, free of the lien after the last payment cleared. The savings were thin but honest. The car title clean again. He walked to the bungalow and touched door frames like checking a pulse. The marigold bed lay bare. He planted rosemary for remembrance and steel for strength. He called his mother and said, "It's done." She cried. He did not. He simply breathed, a long inhale that tasted like a winter, finally leaving. In the quiet, he realized forgiveness is furniture you build slowly. Some days you sit, some days you sand. Elijah married Selah 2 years later in a small ceremony under live oaks in San Antonio. No sequins, no crowd chasing content. Just people who could lift tables and secrets, vows that said patience out loud. Naomi saw the announcement on a friend's feed and wrote a letter she didn't send. Elijah and Selah planned a move, her fellowship in urban resilience, his transfer to an international team building flood-safe infrastructure in Accra. "A year, maybe 2, Selah said. "Let's learn a new light." He nodded and looked at the marigolds he had replanted, their orange heads brave enough to try again. Before leaving, Elijah mirrored what had been done to him, but with Law's lamp on. He consolidated assets, separated credit lines, and sold the bungalow at fair value, moving equity into a trust with Selah as co-trustee. He transferred the car to her name before shipping it abroad. He sent Naomi formal notice of sale and a final accounting. Dates, amounts, the ledger balanced. He did not mock, but the symmetry stood. He chose a public moment to declare his new life. A going-away reception at the firm, toast crisp, ring gleaming, itinerary posted. This time, the audience applauded truth. Naomi came by the edge of the reception, not invited, not chased away. She watched Elijah thank mentors, watched Selah's hand find his elbow, watched the future lift like an airplane leaving weather behind. Regret wrapped her throat. She thought of the forged signature and the night she called betrayal courage. Elijah met her eyes and nodded once, neither cruel nor soft. It was the nod of a man who survived and learned how to leave a room without setting anything on fire. Naomi went home to an apartment with quiet corners and a mirror that didn't answer. In Accra, the air carried ocean and diesel impossibility. Elijah and Selah rented an apartment with a balcony that taught the lungs new music. He mapped culverts and laughed without checking who else was laughing. On Sundays, he called his mother. On Mondays, he drew lines that kept water where it belonged. When he and Selah walked market aisles, he bought marigold seeds from a woman who swore they thrived anywhere. He planted them in a pot, watched them shrug up through red soil, and understood at last. Some love survives by leaving, some by staying, is by starting again. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.